So now we move on to a very special session. In fact, I would say that we have one of the finest gentlemen in this country who's actually here, Professor Anil Gupta. In fact, I think he's one personality who does not need any kind of introduction. He has been the person who's been instrumental in creating the Honeybee Network, somebody who's worked on innovation. If I really say the top 3 people in the world on innovation, then you can actually think about him in the top 3 people in the area of innovation, grassroots innovation and things. So, David, can we please sit? Thank you. So we can all do the chit-chat post-lunch. I think this is one session for which I would have actually died for to be here. Professor Anil Gupta, grassroots innovation guy, the walking professor, as he lovingly said actually at many points in time. He does this walk across the country trying to understand what are the innovations that are happening and so on and so forth. I've not had the chance of being a student, but I think that's one misfortune that I actually have. But I would have actually loved to spend time with him and learn from him. I've just started knowing him about 2 years back, but I think the kind of influence he has had on me is absolutely tremendous. Sir, can we request you to be here and share your views?
Thank you, Ahmed. Friends, good afternoon. I said good afternoon. Energy. We need lots of energy because half the things in the world are done not for any other reason than only 2, which is one is energy and second is empathy. These are the 2 major drivers that will never frustrate us. And it is pity that those in whom society invests the most are the most cynical. They have the least hope. They give up so easily. And for some reason, they tend to spread cynicism. Cynicism is infectious. Optimism is not. Optimism requires effort, a significant effort. And what I want to share with you some thoughts on, and leaving some time for discussion if you have, about 10 minutes, is that communities and corporations. Which communities? The creative ones. Which corporations? The hungry ones. The corporations which are hungry for ideas, hungry for learning, hungry for innovations. How do they connect? Why is it that, and I'm being very blunt about it, why is it that the multinational corporations in the last few years I have seen are far more hungry to learn about frugal innovations than Indian corporations? What is happening? I don't understand this. Why should hunger be so intense among the MNCs and less intense, far less intense, in Indian companies? Obviously, there is something wrong. And I will tell you a story. When I discovered this unfortunate reality. So I had gone to Ludhiana at the invitation of the Ludhiana Management Association many years ago, I think about 10, 12 years ago, for a lecture on innovations. So I did a lot of homework from the Honeybee database. We took a lot of cycle-based innovations. I thought I'm going to the cycle capital of the world, so I should carry with me a lot of cycle-based innovations. Cycle which can be used for pumping water, cycle can be used for sprinkling, cycle can be used as a workshop for small drilling and cutting and various other operations, cycle which floats in the water, cycle which moves on the ground, whole range of functions for which cycle had been innovated and improved upon. Though we all know that the design of the cycle has not undergone any change in the last 60 years. The cycle that common people use in our country is one such design which shows institutionalized inertia of our country. The one which is used by the most common people. For many, it is even an aspirational good to own a cycle. And at the same time, no change. So I took those ideas, presented it, a lot of applaud, everything fine. At the dinner time, I asked the host, don't ask me his name, you liked the presentation, you were very happy with what I said, but you didn't tell me which innovation which I presented will you take it forward in your industry. You know what the reply I got? Professor Gupta, we are doing very fine. Now, how can I pray that they should not do fine? Because if they do fine, then innovations have no place in their scheme of things. If they do bad, only then will they think about innovation. This is not correct. This is not a very pragmatic, a futuristic, a realistic way of thinking. This must change. This must change. The good corporations, the wise ones, the agile ones, don't wait for a problem to arise, then they will start thinking of solutions. They don't, in fact, want to wait for solutions. They don't want to invite problems. Why would they do? Why should I wish any corporation a bad time such that innovations become a prime concern for them? So that day I realized that if this mindset continues, that if you're doing fine, then you don't have to think about innovations, then there's something wrong. Recently, I had an opportunity to interact with the executive committee of NASSCOM in Ahmedabad. They came for some meeting. They said, Prof. Gupta, we want to spend an hour with you. I said, all right, come. They came to the institute where I teach. Spent an hour. Mr. Chandrasekhar, who was formerly Secretary IT and now he's the Secretary of NASSCOM, the largest corporation of $100 billion industry of our country, one of the star sector of our economy, the IT sector, were there, all the top executives. I asked a simple question. I said, we have 650,000 villages, and we have 150,000 post offices. Is it difficult to imagine putting a Bluetooth broadcaster in every single post office so that we can beam the open source local language content for school children to every single village? So that in 1 year, we remove the asymmetry between many of the kids who are young people sitting here, because they have studied not in the government school. You have studied in private school, most of you. But those who study in government schools are the ones who belong to the poorest families of our society. And there's a big divide today between those who study in government schools. Not in my time. We studied in government schools. Those times, the government schools were the best. Even now, the government schools attract the best teachers, but they don't have the best education, unfortunately. They pay far more than the private schools to teachers. Average salary is 3 times different. Government school salary is 3 times more than the private schools. And yet, for whatever historical reasons and the political interference and whatever has you, things have not been very good. So we are producing 2 classes of citizens. Now, this was an idea where we remove the asymmetry in access to the content between privileged and the less privileged children. I'm waiting for the response. I'm sure they will think about it. But it is doable. What I'm trying to say is there are possibilities by which we can reach the masses. We can make a quantum jump in our social reach, social coverage, social inclusion. We can make a quantum jump. We don't have to make small incremental steps. It is possible to use the same resources that we have in CSR with much higher impact, much, much higher impact. Let me give you another example. We have mobilized in the National Innovation Foundation about 200,000 ideas from 550 districts of our country. Large number of them, about, I would say, 65% are dealing with herbal knowledge, botanical knowledge, plant-based knowledge, because that's how our society survived for such a long time. When they didn't have access to modern solutions for agriculture, for human health, for livestock, they needed to rely on their own knowledge system. And therefore, a lot of inventions, innovations, traditional knowledge were fermented and solutions emerged. If at the current level we want to add value, we worked about 200 labs every year, and we have filed more than 800 patents in the name of grassroots innovators. No other organization in this public system has filed as many in the last 5 years, 90% of them. We have licensed about 10%, 83 or so, to small entrepreneurs. Now, if this database is treated as a national database, and if we engage with this database to add value and disseminate these value-added products and services to the rural and urban areas, we can transform. We can transform this country very fast. Why isn't enough hunger? From 62 countries, People have written to us seeking these ideas. They have found us out. We didn't go to them on net. If 62 countries can find applications for grassroots innovations, why is it difficult to find 62 corporations finding applications for these innovations in their own programs? Why is it so difficult? I don't understand. Must be there is a barrier to do something which is different, because it involves taking risk. So those of you who are working in CSR wings, unless you become entrepreneurial yourself, unless you take risk in your own career, you can't promote risk-taking culture among the communities, please. A risk-averse professional can never meet a risk-averse individual. How will the path meet? So if people are suffering from a lot of risk, a lot of doubt, floods, have a lot of accumulated debts, and are little risk-averse, some of them at least, you are also risk-averse, you will never meet. So obviously, one of the first advice I will give to CSR teams of the corporation is to be more entrepreneurial, take more risk, publicize your failures gloriously, publicly, share what has gone wrong, why didn't it work, and for God's sake, never, never, never invest your resources in solutions of yesterday. We don't need more of that. That already is happening. There are enough delivery of yesterday's solution in this country. We don't need more. What we need more is futuristic ideas which will not work everywhere, which will involve risk, which will need a lot of adaptive innovations, which will not need a lot of incremental changes by the users. And all of that will require tremendous experimentation. So there's a need for engagement. The third point, we work with children. Children are often treated as sink of sermons. Ye karo, wo karo, do this, do that, all the time. They're tired of listening to the elders about how good they can be if they listen to them. Unfortunately, elders don't know how greatly mistaken they are. So we decided to change this sequence, change the equation. We said, no, children will not be treated as sink of sermons. They will be treated as source of ideas. So we organized Ignite competition on November 7th. Rashtrapati ji gave award at Rashtrapati Bhavan. The youngest child we gave an award was class 1. Class 1. Chris Anant from Virudnagar near Madurai, Tamil Nadu. Dr. Kalam was around at that time. He used to come and give Ignite awards every year to Ahmedabad. So why did we give award to this kid? He had those shoes which make sound, chum chum. So his father was doing vacuum cleaning. He asked his father, why do my shoes make sound? Father said, oh, there must be a whistle. Chris said, all right, if there's a whistle, then air must be going out. Father said, yes. Now Chris was smart. He said, he knew how to blow a whistle. So he said, then air must be coming in. Father said, yes. Then why can't my shoe become a vacuum cleaner? Earlier, his mother complained when he dirtied the ground. Now she says, Chris, can you walk here? And when we got this dialogue from his father, we said, here is a genius. He observed, he analyzed, he abstracted, he assimilated, and he applied. All this he could do at the age of 5. And we got this year 55,000 ideas from all over the country. We selected 30. You can imagine how many more deserved attention, which we could not, because awards could be given only to few. There's a tremendous energy among the children. We organize workshops with children to do research. So we take them to different slums. Privileged and less privileged children go together, do research, come back, present their ideas, and get awards get those ideas can be converted into products. So one group went to one of the inner cities region where vendors lived, the cart owners, ready wale, those who sell things on push carts. So they went there and asked them, look, you send golgappe, you send food items on this cart, but their carts are not visible here. Where are they? So people explained that, look, you see the streets are very narrow. How will we keep cart here? So they are lying outside. Then kids asked, but that means sometime they might be lost or damaged. Of course, sometimes they are lost, sometimes they are damaged. They came back, made a presentation. These kids of class 4, 5, 6, 7. They said, why can't the cart be folding? Why can't you fold the cart so that it can be parked in the house? Nobody for the last 65 years thought of a folding cart. So we have a summer school of technology students. They fabricated it. 30th November, Chief Minister of Gujarat, Governor, Honorable President were there at our campus, IIM campus, to give awards for Ignite last year. And we kept this cart also in a corner. Chief Minister said, this is very good. This can be very useful for urban poor. I'm going to take it up in our state government's plan. Now imagine, children identified a problem that we ignored. They identified a solution. The college students fabricated it. The Chief Minister picked it up. The whole journey could happen within few months from an idea, unmet social need, to a product which got picked up in public policy. This is the power. This is the power. One girl got an award recently on 14th November, again at Rashtrapati Bhavan, from Ministry of Women and Child Welfare, Menka's ministry. She liked this idea very much. On innovations. Last year she wrote about it. This idea was, many children, when they take food, they don't wash hands before taking food. So why don't you print on the lunchbox, every single lunchbox, wash your hand before you eat. Inside you print, wash your hand after you eat. 60% diseases in our country are waterborne because of the impurities in our nails, which get transferred and other reasons. Imagine if a public order is issued that every manufacturer of lunchbox will have to print this as a statutory advice to the children, how much of sanitation and how much of disease load can be reduced. A child in Nizamuddin area from slum, Shireen, can influence public policy of 1.2 billion people of this country. This is the power that ideas have. So let me close by saying that Honeybee Network is very keen that we have a very productive exchange, very productive collaboration between corporations and communities at all levels, in all sectors, in all verticals. There are a large number of people. When I came, young people were sitting here. I'm sure they must have shared a lot of good ideas. They all need space for experimentation and replication of their ideas. Sure, they could be, as I was hearing, they might have brought about some change in the society that they have worked with. My only concern is that we should not take too long to spread a good idea, and we should not insist that merit of an idea will be only selected on the basis of its replicability. I'm talking in a paradoxical language. First, I said, don't hesitate in replicating good ideas. Second, I'm saying, don't evaluate an idea only on its basis of being replicable. The paradoxical reason is there are a lot of niches. There's a long tail of innovation, which means a lot of innovations will diffuse widely, but many will not. Dhimaji, where we had a Shodh Yatra, every 6 months we walk. I walked 3 times, actually. There's a course also at IIM on Shodh Yatra. So 3 times we walk from village to village, live there, share what innovations we have, learn from what they have. In Dhimaji, we were walking in Assam. Dhimaji is the place where ULFA was born, one of the militant organizations of our country. The water has very high iron content. The conventional filters will not work. No corporation will manufacture water filters only for about 10,000, 20,000 pieces market. So if market is restricted, if problem affects fewer number of people, then it is not interesting for corporations. So then we should not manufacture that. So people of ULFA, people of Dhimaji should remain unserviced. They should take highly contaminated water. And if we develop an innovative solution, then it will not sell to many pieces. It will sell only to people who are affected by this problem. Now, there are many such problems all over the country which need niche-specific solution. If we don't solve those problems, because their market is small, then these people get alienated. They think that their problems don't matter to the country. When they get alienated, they also become angry. When they become angry, sometimes they become violent. And the peace and order is lost. So please appreciate, we spent 30,000 crores to fight our own young people in this country, in various regions where our market and our civil society and our public systems have not reached. That money can be put to better use. And you can show the way by solving problems, the unmet social needs. So let me conclude by pleading with all of you that if we create innovation clubs which do 4 things: search innovation, spread innovation, celebrate innovation, Invite innovators to your community meetings, invite to your corporate meetings, invite to your board meetings, invite them to your classroom, wherever, whichever area you work, invite a solver who has solved a problem frugally and creatively, an idea that didn't occur to any one of us here. And fourth, sense the unmet needs. For each of the 650,000 villages, for each of the urban slum, we need to map the unmet social needs. It is possible to do it. And then find a systematic way of solving those problems. And very soon, India will become not only a society which is inclusive, but also provider, the largest provider in the world of open source content. And that's what our aspiration should be. We should not just think of solving our problem. We should be able to think of putting solutions in open source for a large number of people in other countries to use. That is the real inclusive word and inclusive society. Thank you so much. We have some time. Yes, please.
I've also innovated a few things and encouraged some innovation. One of the very common problems that is found is कि अपने अंदर में एक हीन भावना बन गई है. तो जब बात करते हैं तो पहली बात लोग पूछते हैं कि ये कहाँ से है, अमेरिका से है, यूके से है. अगर वो बात होती है तो वो बोलते हैं हाँ ठीक है कुछ होगा. So I want to ask you what is your take on how to overcome this, which I think is a stumbling block. The other is language, because most of our अपनी जो बातचीत होती है वो अंग्रेजी में ही होती है. जो आदमी अंग्रेजी नहीं जानता है वो सामने अपनी चीज़ बोलने को ही नहीं आता है.
When we started Honeybee Network, we decided 3 principles. 1, cross-pollination. We should share ideas of one region, one people, one community with another. This can only take place in local languages. So Honeybee newsletter comes in English, Tamil, Odia, Telugu, Malayalam, Gujarati, Hindi. So language point, you are absolutely on the spot, that unless we use local languages, there is no cross-pollination. Second, we decided that the creative people should not remain anonymous. We should give them voice, visibility, and velocity. Voice, visibility, and velocity. So that link between formal and informal science and technology and other institutions will help add value. Both sides will learn from each other. So whatever we do with those ideas, we must share back with the people. And third, if we add any value and generate some returns, consultancy, honorarium, even per diem, you go abroad, you get some per diem. You go on to talk about their innovations, you get some money. A reasonable share of that money must go back to those people whose income, whose ideas made that money possible. So be it a commercial return, royalty on a product, be it a personal income, anything which has accrued on account of using or building upon the knowledge that people have provided must go back to them. These are the 3 simple principles. 28 years ago, we started. And I must say that anybody who volunteers for Honeybee Network or links with it will never have the problem that you mentioned. Because there is so much that we have learned from people that there is no reason why there should be any lack of self-confidence. Of course, we have not succeeded as much in sharing that. And thanks to Amit that this platform has emerged, which will hopefully help us in disseminating. I just gave a card. Can you just show that card? No, the card that I gave you. I want to show you a card which I have brought with me. And I gave Now this card has 4 GB data. And I will give it to Amit also just now. He can copy it, no property right. You can share with anybody. 4 GB data on hundreds of innovations. All here. Right? It's all yours. So please share with everybody, make copies of this, share with everybody. This has all the back issues of Honeybee newsletter and many other content. Yes, please.
So where I come from, there's this phrase called motherhood and apple pie. And I would suggest ideas are like motherhood and apple pie. But everybody in this room has a responsibility somewhere in their work to realize that ideas aren't really worth that much. When you talk about what corporations should do, what about the fact that there's a massive, massive global ideas evaluation ecosystem? And there's a massive, a fairly massive social ideas evaluation system. There's over 3,000 Ashoka Fellows that have been chosen. There's hundreds of Schwab entrepreneurs. There's hundreds of Sandkalp entrepreneurs. All of these players went way beyond the idea to create something that looked like it might be sustainable and looked like it might be scalable. And then they were chosen, and then they were given support. And yet, today, we do not have a single continentally scaled social enterprise anywhere in the world. Wouldn't it make more sense for corporations to focus on solving that problem, taking the players who've already been through the evaluation processes from that whole ecosystem, who've scaled to a certain point but could go continental or could go global? Isn't that a better place for corporations?
Sorry, I will have to disagree with you. You know why corporations come to IIM? Because there's no risk involved. They get best of the students in the country, taught by best of the professors, and we put platinum on the gold, right? Platinum polish on the gold. They're already golden when they come. And obviously, there's no risk involved in this. David, what you're suggesting is there no risk approach. You're telling the corporates to work with already established names. No, I don't want that. I just don't want that. That is something.
That's not at all what I'm suggesting.
Please, let me put it this way. One of the problems in our ecosystem, I would say, I don't want to comment on Ashoka, I don't want to comment on anybody else. One of the problems our ecosystem in our country is we are too much obsessed with our own ideas and take very little pride in helping somebody else's idea diffuse. There's a diffidence in acknowledging that, look, not all good ideas will come to me. So when Shalini, class 8th from Patna, sent 2 lines to us, her grandfather uses a walker. You have seen the walker? And with walker, she can't climb these stairs, because they don't have the adjustable legs. A problem which is universally applicable. The walker in US don't have adjustable legs, walker in Europe don't have adjustable legs, walker in India don't have adjustable legs. So our team in Fab Lab, in NIF, made an adjustable leg walker in 1,500 rupees. 1,500 rupees. Now with this walker, when you climb, the front legs become shorter. When you come down, the front legs become taller. Very simple. This was licensed on non-exclusive basis to one of the company. She got few lakh rupees as license fee, one of the youngest entrepreneur of our country. She gets royalty of 100 rupees per walker. And now we are trying to talk to Elimco, which is a public sector assistive technology company in Kanpur, so that it can go into larger scale. And the walker will diffuse. It required a company. It required a large corporation. It requires public policy. UNICEF found that it could be very useful for their global refugee programs and other programs. So they invited it at Copenhagen, where they procure. They have the largest procurement division of theirs for various technologies worldwide. So there is a need for scaling up, sure. Small companies are already realizing it. Large companies are not realizing it. And I would strongly advise, invest in untested ideas. Invest in people who are not known. Known people will get enough support. They will get support from foundations. They will get support from other companies. Please, if you didn't care, if my visit here is of no consequence, if we only do what I do in my professional job as teacher of putting platinum on gold. I think my value here is if I can draw your attention to what less known, but much more creative people at the grassroots level, among the children, among the farmers, among the artisans, among the students, so that their ideas get traction. And that will only happen when you will take risk, when you will invest in people and invest in ideas that have not yet been proved worthy. But don't think that even if that product doesn't succeed or service doesn't succeed, you have added value by encouraging some young person or a farmer or an artisan or elderly person in feeling that his or her ideas matter. And that's the message we must create in our society, that ideas matter. When they get translated into practice and product, they matter even more. When they get available to people who can use them, they matter even more. So accessibility, affordability, and availability, 3 elements of supply chain. Accessibility, affordability, and availability. There's no point in product being accessible and affordable, but not available. If there's a stock out in the primary health center for a cheap drug, what will it do? What consequence it has? No benefits. So it must be available at the grassroots level. It must be accessible, and it must be affordable. All the 3 conditions must be met. So there is no doubt in what you're saying that unless products are converted, taken to value chain, they're of no consequence. Products by themselves don't help, though they can help at one level if our textbooks, if our educational content can include these examples that I'm talking about, and tons of examples that we have. Then children who study will become more curious. So I have 1 more minute. Anybody else who has an idea? Yes, please. Lady there. She's there.
Good afternoon, sir. I really appreciated what you said about innovative, dynamic ideas driving public policy, but I feel that in our country, a lot of ideas are culturally restricted because of beliefs that we have that are logically obsolete, but are still very much prevalent. For instance, in Karnataka, where I come from, for 4 years, they've been trying to start a rape crisis intervention center, but the government is just not allowing it because they don't think that rape should be something that's spoken about publicly. So as far as innovating ideas comes, what are your views on overcoming all the cultural barriers that come in the way?
2 things. 1, ignore the state, ignore the market, ignore anybody who comes in your way. Just ignore them. Don't spend too much time in fighting them because that takes away too much energy. I would rather ignore. If I were in your place, I will ignore them, forgive them, and start with my effort. I'm sure if what we are doing is meaningful, it takes time. It took me 25 years, sometime more than that. But there are people in this country who appreciate a good idea. Let me tell you that. This country has a very positive culture. It somehow neglects things for long. It takes a long time to evaluate them. Unfortunately, that's true. When it comes to women's ideas and ideas for and from women, even more important that we pay more attention. To give an example, and there's not much time, so I must close. This is the last example. 60% women are anemic in our country. Only 20% are belonging to poor family. So there's no reason why so many women should be anemic. What is the problem? The problem is that we did away with one of the time-tested practice in our society, in our families, which was to cook at least 1 curry or vegetable at least once a week in iron vessel. और लोहे की कड़छी यूज करते हैं छौंक लगाने के लिए, लेडल ऑफ मेड ऑफ आयरन, ठीक है ना, उसको छौंक लगाकर माँ उसको दाल में डाल देती. So when you put the ladle, hot ladle, in dal or curry, it used to get enough iron. Now what happened? Iron, enough content of iron. So a student from Gulf in Canada, in Cambodia, made a 126-gram cast iron fish, gave it to poor families. Please put in the curry whatever you cook, because they don't have the tradition of using iron vessels. And for family of 5, for 5 years, this small fish provides enough iron. In our country, we have this solution. There's no reason women should suffer, right? There's no reason women should suffer, not even the poor, even the less poor ones. But how do we disseminate this idea? इसमें किसी corporation को profit तो नहीं मिलेगा. Nobody will make profit out of it. So we need to use our channels that we have and make such public domain, open source solutions accessible to a large number of people. Please, for God's sake, just go ahead and do whatever you are doing. It's very important. What government feels is no consequence. I don't think we should worry about that. The people who are affected by it, they will care about what you're doing, and they will respect what you do. Thank you so much.
Sir, I have to say something, sir, last. Because
this is permission.
I have taken permission.
Okay.
So you were saying about the iron, and I work with children, and I have faced a similar issue. Almost all of them, all the girls especially, they were having this issue. 1 week, they gave them thoda sa gud, which is like our practice.
Correct.
1 week, their level was fine. So now coming back to the business idea, I don't know if somebody could help. Like Kinder Joy we are having, just make some candy out of it. My women are already in village. They are working on this idea, providing them with a playful manner. They can eat the good and they can really get away with this. So I just thought
I'm only requesting. You are absolutely right, because good is made in an iron vessel. big pots. So it collects iron from there, plus whatever little that plants have. But more it comes from the vessel in which it is cooked. So what I'm suggesting is an iron ladle or an iron kadhai, which is not too costly. A cast iron kadhai doesn't cost too much. Please advise them all to do that. One teacher, what he did in Bharuch, he found children were malnourished. 43% children are malnourished in Gujarat. 43%, okay? Not a small number. So what did he do? He asked the children to bring one handful of grain from their home. Everybody brought one handful of grains. He sprouted them, fed it back to children. Malnourishment went away. So, there are solutions which are available. The last example, whether you wash vegetables after cutting or you cut the vegetable after washing, makes all the difference to free amino acids in the vegetable. Aapka nutrition, if you have spent 2 rupees or 3 rupees on vegetable and you cut them and then wash them, you got value only of 50 paisa. A lot of nutrition went away. With the water, you washed it away. So there are lots of such practices which don't cost a penny. But for disseminating them in a creative and interesting manner, we need to create multimedia solutions, on small films on the phone, maybe public address system, maybe news schools. So what you're doing is very useful. I mean, I strongly compliment what you're doing. But I'm saying take multiple approaches. Those who can't afford jaggery, let them cook in iron. But jaggery, of course, it has many more minerals. It is good not only for iron. It has many more minerals. So therefore, that is better solution than just using iron. But depend. Don't make best the enemy of better.